In this video, I'm gonna show you how to lose weight for the year 2023. Yep, just for the year 2023. So if you apply any of this advice and you're in the future, chances are you're gonna put on weight. I'm just kidding, but these rules can be applied at any time by anyone. But I think that these rules are a little bit more specific for people who are probably trying to have like a different mindset on weight loss, for people who just want to kind of reset from previous mentalities, or for somebody that's starting weight loss for the first time. Or like I said, it could be applied it could be applied by anybody, even if you're in the middle of your weight loss journey. These rules here are going to help you make sure that you are successful regardless of what year it is. But first, if you're new to my channel, my name is Daniel, and on this channel I like to focus on helping people achieve their ideal body transformation and health by making simple habit changes to their lifestyle, nutrition, and mindset, because all it takes is simple habit changes, not suffering or trying everything through willpower. And I also make some really tasty low-calorie recipes. All right, so let's get straight to it. Rule number one is stop comparing yourself to others. So comparing yourself to others is one of the most torturing psychological things you can do to yourself, because this is where people get a lot of unrealistic expectations as far as like where they should be and how fast they should be going with their weight loss goals. Because you'll see the one person who's comparing themselves to their neighbor or their coworker, and then that person lost 100 pounds in 6 months, and you've only lost 30 pounds in 6 months. And this person may not take into account that person was probably taller, they were heavier when they started. I mean, there's many things to look at, right? But at the end of the day, comparing yourself to others is not a good idea. You need to focus on yourself and the progress that you're making. And you just gotta make sure that you are moving forward, that you are making progress. Now, there's nothing wrong with looking up to people, with being inspired by other people, but don't compare yourself to others, because this is gonna set you up for unrealistic expectations. Instead of doing that, focus on yourself and focus on your progress. If you do this, trust me, your weight loss journey is gonna be a lot more stress-free. Rule number two, focus on doing one thing right at a time. And that could have a different meaning for different folks. So for you, it could be that you focus on doing one thing right every day, every week. Again, don't compare yourself to others and focus on doing one thing right at a time. See, the biggest mistake that people make here is that they give themselves something like a New Year's resolution, and they want to do everything right at once. They want to go to the gym 5 times a week. They want to diet strictly. They want to meditate. They want to read 5 books. They want to do all these crazy things at once. And that only sets them up for failure, because they're only able to do it for 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Instead of doing that, instead of trying to do everything right at once, focus on doing one thing right at a time. Make sure that you master that one thing and then move on to the next one. And believe it or not, this is gonna get you faster results than trying to do things the fastest way. All right, so rule number 3 supports the previous 2 rules, and this rule is consistency over perfection. I'm gonna say that again. Consistency over perfection. Make sure that you're being consistent instead of perfect. Instead of trying to do everything right, do your best. Do the best that you can. Make sure that you're focusing on doing one thing right. That is being consistent instead of trying to do everything perfect. So focus on being consistent. Focus on showing up. Focus on trying your best instead of expecting yourself to be perfect and do everything right. Rule number 4 is learn to love all food. As humans, we want what we can't have. So when you demonize a food, or you label a food as bad, or you tell yourself, I'm not supposed to have that, guess what? You're gonna want it more. And so when you have this mindset of, I love all food, I can have any food that I want at any time, unless of course it's because of an allergy or some actual health restriction. If you tell yourself this, I love all food and I can have any food that I want at any time, no matter how bad it is, psychologically you're gonna want it less, and you're gonna be more forgiving with yourself. And when it is time to have that food, you're not gonna indulge as bad, because it hasn't been emotionally restricted to you. So you have to have this mindset of, I love all food. There's no food that I can't have. Rule number 5, we're slowly starting to move to the nutrition, to the technical stuff. So rule number 5 is supporting the previous point. You have to stop labeling things as bad or good, healthy or unhealthy. Now, I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that, there's no difference between a pastry and a vegetable omelet, of course there's a big difference. But again, it goes back to the previous point of when you start demonizing things, when you start restricting yourself of things, it just makes it harder on you. It makes it more difficult for you to actually want to say no to those things. And when you do have them, you want them with more, I guess, passion. You desire them more. So you have to stop labeling things as bad or good, healthy or unhealthy. Instead, what I need you to use, the words that I need you to replace healthy versus unhealthy, is optimal versus suboptimal. There are foods that are more optimal for your health and your weight loss transformation goals, and there are other foods that are less optimal. And I'm actually going to cover that in the next point. But with rule number 5 is you got to get out of this mentality of that's healthy, that's unhealthy. Instead, start thinking that's more optimal for my health, that's more suboptimal for my health. Rule number 6 supports the previous point, and that is that you have to have a dietary genre. I actually did a whole video on this talking about how watching a movie is kind of like following a diet. So I'll leave the link in the description below so you can watch that. But essentially the premise of that video is that you must pick your dominant, optimal group of foods that are going to be like your fallback approach. The foods that your fridge and your pantry are going to be 70 to 80% composed of. And in this particular case, the things that I recommend are high protein, healthy fats, and vegetables, primarily with a lot of protein and a lot of vegetables. So when we look at those things and we look at the previous point of stop labeling things as healthy or unhealthy, good versus bad, you got to think of your healthier foods, your optimal foods, as the foods that you're going to be eating most of the time. The foods that are going to be composed, that are going to be in your fridge, that are going to be in your pantry. And in this case, you want to have a high protein diet with vegetables. So those are your optimal foods. And anytime that you're not having, something that's high protein, high vegetables with some healthy fats, we could call those less optimal, the less optimal foods. But you want to have, like I said, this dietary genre, like your dominant group of foods that you're eating most of the time and that are your fallback, thing. So in this case, high protein and vegetables and some healthy fats. Rule number 7 is learning to balance fats and carbs. So the previous rule taught you that your dietary genre should be protein and vegetables. But what if that protein is a little bit fattier? What if that protein is a little bit leaner? It's a little bit on the leaner side. Well, this is one of those technical mistakes, and it's hard to spot sometimes for beginners. But once you understand it, it's gonna make a huge difference, because a lot of people who try to lose weight, they combine fats and carbs, and that's where weight gain happens, or the lack of result happens. What you need to do from now on is, and this is kind of like when you do keto, you obviously you're balancing fats and carbs, but it applies in general too. So if you are gonna have a meal that is high fat, high protein, and your vegetables, lower your carbs. And this is when you can find things that are low carb or low sugar. If you're gonna do a meal that is high carb, then you need to lower your fats. And that's where you can do low fat things so that it doesn't sabotage you in the back end. An optimal meal, regardless of doing, if you're doing low carb or low fat, you need to learn to balance fats or carbs. So if you have a fattier protein, you need to lower your carbs. Or if you have a lot of fats in there in whatever meal you have, lower your carbs. If you have a lot of carbohydrates, then make sure that you're doing lean sources of protein. So again, technical mistake that a lot of people make, but this is very important. So going forward, start to learn to balance your fats and carbs, meaning you're gonna prioritize one and not both. Rule number 8 is mindfulness or food awareness. Basically, just get in the habit of weighing everything out using a food scale, of using measuring cups, measuring spoons. Get in the habit of Googling things. If you don't know if a banana, for example, is a carb, then Google it. If you don't know how many grams of carb it has, Google it. Get in the habit of being aware and knowledgeable of the foods that you're eating. Essentially, make it a point to be a little bit more curious about learning about nutrition, and just make it part of your everyday life where you're constantly curious about food. Rule number 9, focused on weight training and personalized exercise. Now this one applies to everybody, but if you are a little bit heavier, like if you have, let's say 200 or 300 pounds to lose, then for the moment, focus on just, like daily walks, just getting, moving, getting your 10,000 steps a day on simple things. Again, one thing at a time. And as you continue to get healthier, then you want to move on to weight training and personalized exercise, or you can start right away. But regardless, these should be your priority and not just cardio. The reason why weight training is really important for long-term sustainability and weight loss is because the more muscle you add, even if you add a little bit of muscle mass, just 3 or 4 pounds, that increases your metabolism, meaning that it's going to help you lose fat at a faster rate, and it's going to help you in the long term keep it off. And when I talk about personalized exercise, try to do things that are fun for you. And I'm sure that even if you didn't play any sports in high school or you were not active, there's got to be something that you enjoy that involves moving around. It could be swimming, playing Nintendo Wii, playing soccer in a recreational league, boxing for fun, just hitting a bag. But do something that is fun for you, that, something that's cardio based, but that is fun for you, something where you stop and go. So something that mimics the high intensity interval training. I mean, preferably if you like doing boxing classes or kickboxing classes, those are the best, but try not to do cardio where you're just running on the treadmill for 45 minutes at the same speed. Something that also doesn't feel like a chore, because if you're doing something that feels like a chore, again, you're gonna burn out. So again, focus on weight training and doing personalized and fun exercise. Rule number 10, and the final rule, is plan on taking a break and plan on reevaluating what you're doing. So one of the things that I talked about in a previous video, 3 things to do before you start a diet, was that people see weight loss as a temporary thing, and this is just a big mistake. They don't see it as a transition to a lifelong journey of better health and, optimal, a better version of you. They just see it as a temporary event. So when you plan on taking breaks, you're giving yourself that flexibility to say, you know what, in 2 weeks, I'm gonna take a weekend off. In 4 weeks, I'm gonna plan on taking a break, and I'm gonna do, just kind of focus, not focus on my weight loss at the moment. Because when you do that, you learn to be consistent instead of perfect. And consistency is gonna get you to the end, whereas trying to do it as fast as possible is probably not gonna get you there. So plan on taking breaks, plan on rewarding yourself after you've lost 20 pounds. Give yourself a weekend where you can, give yourself 2 or 3 pounds to put on with some of your favorite cheat foods. And when you do that, to use that weekend to reevaluate. Don't just use it to, be bad. I mean, yeah, you want to be bad, but use it to reevaluate and see, what thing can I do differently? What one thing can I improve on these next 2 weeks? You know what I mean? If you remember one of the previous points is one thing at a time. So plan on taking a break and plan on reevaluating it, because that's going to teach you consistency instead of perfection. All right, so hopefully you guys enjoyed that video, and I wish you nothing but the best for 2023. And I'm sure that you're gonna get to your weight loss and body transformation goals, and I'm sure that you're gonna do it in an easier, faster, and more efficient way if you subscribe to my channel, because I do a lot of videos like this, and I also do a lot of tasty recipes at least once or twice a week. So I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.